Hello and welcome to EFL Matters. I'm joined tonight by Danny Higginbottom and Shrewsbury Town manager Paul Hurst. Tonight we'll be discussing Borough, Leeds, Fulham, Derby and also get the inside track on Shrewsbury Town's record-breaking start to the season. You can get involved at Sky Sports Football using the hashtag EFL Matters. Gentlemen, welcome. Thank you for being here. Let's get stuck into the game, the Sunday lunchtime game, which is Leeds taking on Borough, Danny. It's 3 wins on the spin now for Gary Monk at Middlesbrough.
Yeah.
Are we now seeing him getting the team, getting the results that we expected perhaps pre-season?
I think so. Obviously, a lot of money was spent. I think a lot was made of it. I think it's taken a little bit of time for Gary Monk and backroom staff probably to get the best team. And I think what he's got now, he's got the structure within a team. You know, as much as he can, he's actually been playing the same team. I think the last 3 games, other than Fabio dropping out through illness and Friend coming in, you know, they've had that continuity, the partnership, Ayala, Gibson. That's what it was built on when they last got promoted. So I think they're a team now that could go really on the up now. And I've always said I like Gary Monk. I think he's a great manager. And
Paul, we'll come on to Shrewsbury in a little bit. When we're looking at a team in Middlesbrough, their expectation levels there, they've set the stall out as promotion contenders. What kind of pressure does that heap on, not just the manager, but his squad as well?
I think there's an expectation level every time.
Is he right to address that?
I think he has to, but I think if it's no secret, if you're going to sign for Middlesbrough and play for them, they will be expected to get back into the Premier League, and you have to almost recruit players that can deal with that sort of pressure. I'm with Danny. I think he's a very good manager. And it's what happens over the course of the season. I think we're going to talk about another couple of clubs, and they've had some good runs already and some bad runs. Consistency is the key, we know that, and I'm sure Middlesbrough will be up there.
Danny, for you, when you do spend big with the players that they brought in, is it speculating to accumulate? Does he then have to address that by saying promotion's the #1 priority?
I think so, but then I think what you've got to do is be realistic about it. So when you're signing the players for the big money, obviously Assombalonga being the case in point, the question would be, OK, we want to get promoted. The money that they've spent, that's what I think it was 15 million or whatever it was, it bears into insignificance if they get promoted. You know, we talk about it being one of the biggest jumps in terms of the financial side of things to get to the Premier League. So it's not too much of an issue. But one of the things that I find really interesting about Gary Monk, and it's something that, you know, I think's great about him, and I don't know what you think as a manager, he's quite happy if there's a player that he thinks, OK, well, you know, you're not necessarily going to be involved, so see what happens in the future. So Stuart Downing, point in case, and the summit looked like he was going to be moving. But you as a manager, if you've got a player there and you say, OK, you may be surplus to requirements, are you happy for him to prove you wrong? Because that's what I think is a great point from a manager.
Without a doubt, I think providing the player still shows that he wants to be at the football club, shows the right attitude around the rest of the group, which you would hope someone like Stuart Downing would do that.
Definitely.
Then I think his experience could be invaluable as the season progresses.
He's returning to Leeds, a club that he left in the summer. What kind of reaction do we think he's going to get?
I think by your face, it's probably you're thinking it might
I'm
not.
just intrigued, Paul. That's all it is.
It might not be the best, which, you know, I think would be unfair. I'm sure there's a lot of Leeds fans there that appreciate the work that he did. I think
under kind of testing times, isn't he? From the ownership downwards, he had a lot to deal with last season.
Without a doubt, and I think if you'd have said they'd have finished, was it 7th? Probably most people would have said that's a good achievement. But having gone so close, again, expectations rise during the season. I think he was very unfortunate, but he can be proud of the work that he did there. And
Paul mentions expectations. We've looked at Leeds and how they started the season. Where's it gone wrong, Dan? Is it form? Is it fitness? Is it a combination of both?
I think that there's a bit of both in there. I think at the start of the season, what they had the back four and they had the defensive 2, and a lot of the times they would sit there and they got continuity within that, and I think they had a ridiculous amount of clean sheets. I think they've had 1 in the last 9, I think after having 6 in a row. So the continuity of that has made it a little bit difficult. One of the things that was surprising against Derby County, went ahead against Derby, then ended up losing the game. I think Leeds United are a very good counter-attacking team. Now, in order for them to be the counter-attacking team they want to be, they have to get that first goal, and then you expect them to then go and kick on, but they didn't do that against Derby, and actually I think they've taken the lead in 2 of the last 3 and lost all 3 of them, so that's a concern, because a team like Leeds United, if they go ahead, you would expect them then to be able to kick on with the quality that they've got to pick teams off on the counter.
Well, we can have a look at the top end of the Sky Bet Championship, and a team that we're going to highlight and talk about next in the game on Tea Time, which is Fulham vs Derby, is Derby, just nestled nicely in 7th, just outside of the playoff places, and a feeling that perhaps after a streaky start to the season, Paul, that Gary Rowett has got his team moving in the right direction.
Without a doubt, and as we just alluded to, Leeds probably going the opposite way. And Derby on a good run. Had a great win at Norwich not so long ago. And I think one thing you'll guarantee with Derby is Gary will have them organised. He was very unlucky to lose his job at Birmingham. We've seen what's happened there since. They'll run it close, I'm sure, but you look at the table, it's so tight, and I think it's far too early to think anyone can guarantee who's going to be there or not come the end of the season.
Does he seem like a good fit for you for Derby?
I think so, yeah. You know, it's a big football club, but former player there. I think he seems as though he's always got a really good manner about himself. Like I said, they'll have them organised. And, you know, do I expect them to be top 6? Looking at some of the other teams, I'm not sure. But he's certainly given himself a good start to the season.
And Danny, for you, what about the standard of the squad, the players that he's got at his disposal? We've seen players come in, we've seen players go out. One that's come in, Joe Ledley, has really made a mark after being out without a club for so long, hit the ground running seemingly, and I think his contract runs out in January, but they're looking to extend it. He seems to have been a player that has been quite a symbol of what Gary wants from his Derby side.
I think it's no surprise, really, that he missed the game against Reading. They'd been on a fantastic run, and I think that was...
It's become that important quickly for them?
Yeah, definitely, I think so. I think the way that him and Huddleston play... Huddleston is the player that will like to get on the ball and dictate play, whereas when you've got a player like Ledley, he can do a bit of everything. He's fantastic. He's the go-to man. He's the calming influence at the back. So I think he's a must to try and extend that contract to keep it going. And also, as well, you know, you look at Keogh as well, the centre-half. He come off, it was 0-0 at the time, and they ended up being beat 4-2. But as in terms of Ledley, I think he can go on to be a big player for them, as in terms of the experience that he brings, but when everything's a little bit flustered around him, he's very, very calm and just goes and gets some of the games. So they'll be hoping that he's fit for the weekend. And
we've mentioned expectation levels already this evening, Paul. If you look at a Fulham team that was in the playoffs last season, are we now set? Was that a team that had a prolonged purple patch, and this is now the level? Or are we seeing a team that's just struggling for that consistent form?
I think they are struggling. There's no doubt about that. You know, you also look at Reading, who I think they met in the playoff semi-final last year. Both of those teams are struggling. Last season, I think they were probably something of a surprise package, certainly initially, but then were fancied because of the form that they were in towards the end of the season and going into those playoffs. I think Danny said it earlier, they were his favourites to win them. Missed out. Is it a bit of an hangover? I'm not so sure.
Is there an emotional reaction to that? You've got to get the team up and going again?
Well, it can be. Unfortunately, I've been through that experience of losing playoffs quite often, unfortunately. And
that wasn't a loaded question, Paul, by any stretch of the imagination.
No, you're OK. But we, you know, we managed to get over that and eventually we won promotion. We're still early stages, really, but I'm sure that, you know, everyone at Fulham will be looking to get into some form sooner rather than later to give themselves that chance of perhaps replicating what they did last season.
Quick touch on Sunderland now, the perennial debating subject of football at this moment in time. It's been almost 3 weeks now since they've been without a manager. Has this been too long for you? From a professionally run club organisation that sacked a manager 15 minutes after the game had finished, why is no one there?
It's not forward planning. They haven't thought to themselves, right, OK, Simon Grayson, I think they were hoping that he was...
Can you believe that you're saying that about a club that size?
No, not... Well, I think with Sunderland, I think if you spoke to supporters, listened to the supporters, they would say that it's a club that's probably in a little bit of, you know, mess, the way things have been run. And I think there's managers... I think if you look at Sunderland as a football club, as the team, as the supporters, I think it would be a manager's dream. I think the problem comes with all the other things that you have to deal with. And that, you know, I'm sure you'd say the same thing. That can create its own problems at times when you're at certain football clubs. Now, one of the things I would say about the playing side of things, I did the last game against Middlesbrough. They got beat 1-0, they conceded early. So I thought, right, let's have a look at the reaction of a team that we're used to losing. They were unlucky to lose that game to the point where really Middlesbrough, you know, Randolph got man of the match. So whoever goes in there...
Telling sign, isn't it? You scratch the surface and you can see other things going on.
Yeah, 100%. And I just think that is a football team that if they get the right appointment, they can go from strength to strength. I'm not saying they're going to go and get promoted, but they can get out of harm's way in terms of relegation, no doubt.
And we mentioned Paul then. Paul, we've mentioned you in dispatches when we've discussed the Sunderland job in previous weeks. And by no means putting words into your mouth, but when you look at a job such as that, for a manager, when we sometimes sit and scratch our heads about a manager moving to a club, there's a lot to be attractive about that club, isn't there? Oh,
it's a massive club. There's no getting away from that. It's obviously got some issues. You know, I'm very surprised myself. When someone's sacked so quickly after a game, you're almost expecting an appointment to be announced the day after. That's not been the case. I think there's a couple of clubs that haven't used this period as I think we all would have expected and got someone in place. But it's hard sometimes to get out of, you know, a routine, a habit, and it's been a losing habit for the last few seasons where they've eventually managed to stay up. and something that's, you know, got to change within that football club. The fans are there, you know that. There's still some very good players. My only thought with what Danny said about the performance against Middlesbrough was it's a local derby. Now, I would always expect a performance, no matter what league position it in a derby game, and they got that. But they've got to show a lot more than what they have done so far.
Can you look at it objectively in your career as a manager and say that would be a job that would be of interest to you?
Well, I think it's a step up, and it's a massive football club.
Yeah.
Obviously, at the minute, I'm keen on the job that I'm doing.
Absolutely.
But I think you never say never. It's just flattering, and it's credit to the players and the efforts they've put in for myself that you get linked with jobs like that.
I think it's one of them things as well. Leeds United, obviously, you know yourself, you've played there, you look at Sunderland. What can be so attractive for a manager to go there is the potential. Potential is absolutely huge. Same as Leeds United, everyone says if you're the manager that gets
it right,
that gets it right, you know, the opportunities then are endless. The support, huge fan base, massive football clubs, and I think that's key, and that could be how a manager is actually enticed into the football club.
Well, that's all things Sky Bet Championship. Join us after the break where we'll talk all things Shrewsbury Town with Paul Hurst. Welcome back to EFL Matters. I'm with Danny Higginbottom and Shrewsbury Town manager Paul Hurst. We're going to talk Shrewsbury now, as Paul is here. Paul, a phenomenal start to the season, such a turnaround from last year. Just tell us what's changed.
The squad is a big thing. There's not too many there from last season. I think we've got a much fitter group, a younger, hungrier group. And maybe the first game of the season we won in I think it was the 92nd minute, and that set us on his way. And you know, it's been an incredible start that, in all honesty, I don't think anyone connected with Shrewsbury Town can quite believe.
Do you, from your point of view, because you're meticulous in your planning, yourself and your assistant Chris Doig, you plan ahead, you plan sessions ahead, you look towards the season.
Yeah.
When people say, are you surprised, there's an element of saying, well, not really, because we work really hard to make ourselves as good as possible.
Well, we do, but at the same time, I think we know, if you look historically, the last few seasons, staying up the penultimate game of the season, and then it's been a bit of a yo-yo club up and down the divisions. We know we're up against it in terms of budget-wise. So, yes, we wanted to make improvements and we felt we would be better, but to what degree, you know, certainly we didn't expect to be. I think if we'd have been anywhere close to the top half, we'd have been delighted with that.
And is there any particular results so far stood out this season where you feel like you've set a bit of a marker?
I think a few performances, beating Wigan at home. I believe Wigan will go on and win the division. I think they're the best team in there, followed by some other good ones. But
Putting 4 past Bristol Rovers?
Yeah, well, that's the obvious one that the fans like, and I must admit, first half we were
I knew you'd mention this again.
Yeah.
Typical managers, Dan.
Well,
picking holes in it.
In fairness, it was a good start to the game from both teams, and then we got the first goal. An helping hand there from the goalkeeper.
Is that a pivotal?
Second.
When you look at this, like a pivotal moment such as that, when the second goal goes in, when it's a goalkeeping mistake, suddenly that sets you up to win 4-0, doesn't it? Instead of it being a tight 1-0 game. Oh,
it certainly helped us. But after that, I have to say we looked a very good team, and some of the play was outstanding. We had one passage of play just before half-time, didn't actually lead to a goal, but I felt like I'd been transported to Spain maybe and watching one of the top teams there. And that's just confidence. You know, that night they were outstanding. We're big on the GPS stats. That night we ran further than any other game we have done. And myself and Chris, we're massive on working hard and having that work ethic to his performances. And again, we've got a much fitter group that's allowed us to do that and really create problems offensively, but make it very difficult for teams when they're attacking.
And someone else has been creating problems offensively, isn't it? Stephen Payne, 8 goals this season. The kind of player that you've done your due diligence on and worked with, and he's pulling up trees for you at the moment in time, isn't he?
He is. I mean, we fetched him in last season from Barnsley on loan initially. He got injured 12 minutes into his debut, so we never quite saw the best of Steph last year. This season we managed to bring him in permanently, and he's scoring the goals. And between him and Carlton Morris in particular, we feel we've got a good strike force. Linnell John Lewis as well. Louis Dodds gives us a different option. So we've got some good attacking options there.
Would it be fair to say the teams you're going to expect to be up there, like Charlton, Blackburn, Wigan, they're probably looking forward to January? And when you look in contrast, and this is a backhanded compliment to you, is that are you a little bit fearful of January because you could lose players, whereas them teams that we just mentioned are more than likely looking forward to January to bring players in?
Yeah, in an ideal world, we'd be talking about strengthening. But we've got quite a few lads in on loan. Their situations aren't set in stone. We've got another couple of players that it wouldn't surprise me if we had bids for them. So it is a bit uncertain.
Yeah.
We're doing it, as you always do anyway, as scouting, compiling lists of potential targets. But we are literally having to cover every position because we're not sure exactly what state we're going to be in January, and we've got to be very careful. We could lose the loan players certainly early in that window and not really have a squad to compete. So that's something that I'm very wary of, but in truth, there's not too much we can do about it.
Well, I mean, and as any club needs to do, needs to cut the cloth accordingly, don't they? From your point of view, from a recruitment side of it, you seem to be able to polish up these kind of rough diamonds and get an extra element out of it. Is that because of the situation of perhaps financial constraints, or because you believe in that way of recruiting players?
I believe in that, and I think my experience in the conference with Grimsby, I knew that we'd got some very good players there that could play in the league, but it's getting that opportunity. Where I was lucky. I've got 3 lads that were with me there. I worked with them day in, day out. I saw the performances. I felt they could develop further. Felt they would be better with better players around them, and that's proven to be the case. But we certainly have to try and look in different markets, because if ourselves, Charlton, Blackburn, Wigan are interested in a player, with the best will in the world, we know we're not going to get them. So, yeah, we have to have a look round, and we've got a lot of scouts that scout lower leagues to try and find them gems.
And just talking in recent weeks, I mean, did the international break come at a good time for you to be able to reassess the squad, refocus, work on bits that will keep this momentum going that you've managed to
Yeah,
garner?
it's unusual for me to experience an international break.
Did you have any time off?
No. The players
Only all go on holiday,
the players got an extra day off. I went to watch
getting soft.
Bradford
Terrible.
versus Plymouth. I was saying today, a guy, as I was leaving, just asked, what I was doing there, and thought should be in Dubai, which would have been great, but I think he must have got me mixed up with someone else. So, no, I think it was a time to refresh. We'd suffered his first league defeat. I don't think that will affect us, irrespective of what his result is on Saturday. But it was a different experience for us. But what we've managed to do is get some good work in on the training ground, and we're looking forward to getting back into league action.
And you talk about on the training ground and the way your staff motivate the players, and something that we've picked up on, something we're going to show you just now, is this is the shirt that a player who's not exactly that doing his utmost in training, or being maybe just having an off day in training. This is what he has to wear. What, around everywhere or in training?
In training for the week.
For the week.
Realistically, it's judged on training on the Friday.
Okay.
So we'll be looking.
And is there a vote taken?
Yeah, and sometimes lads seem to think that it's rigged.
Is there one player that gets it more than others? Because then I would say it's rigged.
It's been shared around quite often. Sometimes I agree with the vote. Sometimes it does look like there's a bit of a conspiracy going on. But some people like that shirt, and I've seen some fans wearing it. I don't know if that's just loyalty to the club or they genuinely like it. But I think I know your 2 thoughts on it.
Paul, yeah. I mean, we're going to take a quick look at the League One table now, because this just shows, obviously, where you are at this moment in time. And compared to last season and how far you've come, what are the aims now? Where does Shrewsbury Town look right now?
50 points. You shake your head, but
League One's Ranieri, isn't he?
Genuinely, we want 50 points, and then I said we'll look at the table, see how many more games it's taken us to get to that point, and then we'll try and reassess and look at how the rest of the league's shaping up. But that's always been from day one. We're going to get there, or should get there, a hell of a lot quicker than we envisaged. I think I was told today we've got more points now than we had in 32 games last season. So
astonishing, really. Such a turnaround, and something that you should be obviously rightly proud of. But as we know in football, it's the next game. You've got to keep pushing on. I've got a tweet here from Matthew Jones. He's got in touch with the show, and he wants to know what can be done to solve the disparity between clubs with larger budgets and lower budgets in the same league. Probably something that you've had experience of.
Yeah, I mean, we're certainly experiencing that at the minute, and like I said, for me, a big part of it is trying your recruitment. You have to look in different leagues.
You've got to work harder.
Yeah, I believe so, yeah. And, you know, be willing to give some people a chance. I think once you get those people in, it's the same everywhere, but I think you have to place more emphasis on team spirit, hard work. We're not, at the club, we're not frightened to admit a lot of the success is built on working hard. And I think in some clubs, or with some players, it's almost like they're embarrassed to say that they work hard. You know, we promote that.
So from your point of view, then, when you're scouting, you're looking to bring players in, you're thinking about the here and now, but I would imagine you're also thinking about the future. Is this a player that we can, you know, maybe a little bit short of a few things that you believe that then you can give them, which can then go on to the next level, which in turn is helping you as a football club, but then financially selling them on as well? So is that something that you have in mind as well, looking for the future as well when players come in?
Yeah, and, you know, what I would say is the chairman gave me some funds. We've, I think, bought 4 players, I think it was, for fees. Small fees in relation to many football clubs, but not for Shrewsbury Town. But what he wants, if we're going to spend that, is value for money, first and foremost, and the whole package, which I think we've managed to do that. And also the potential that they can go on and get higher. And, you know, I think, as I said, I've fetched a couple of lads to the football club that it wouldn't surprise me if we do get bids for in January.
Just another touch on a team in League One. Blackpool look to be crawling towards some form of takeover. Danny, for you, is this what the fans have been waiting for?
Oh, 100%.
£31 million, apparently.
100%. And I've said it before, and football club is nothing without its supporters. You know, we were there for the playoff final. I think they took just over 5,000. The 2 playoff finals. Is that
the most damning reflection of how that club, the fans feel about that club?
I think it is, especially when you rewind a few years. You know, I think they had 37,000 and 30,000 in the playoff finals that they had previously. OK, people say, OK, well, it was a championship, but it's not 25 and 30,000 difference. So I think you'll start to see things change for the football club now. But, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it, you've got to give great credit to the manager, Gary Boyer, because he's done unbelievable.
For you, Paul, the job that he's done there, it's phenomenal, really, isn't it? In the midst of all this kind of ongoing off-field disturbance. Without
a doubt, and we said earlier, he was at Blackburn, that's had its issues, so he's had a couple of tough jobs there, and I know Gary from playing with him at Rotherham, a good guy, and I was really pleased for him. I would imagine, you know, without speaking to him about it, he used almost a situation with the players to get that tight-knit group together. You know, reward what fans were going. But I mean, that's an incredible start when, and like you said, to take 5,000 to a Wembley. It's a shame because I'm sure there were so many people and fans that would have loved to have gone, but maybe stuck to their principles. And now it'll be interesting because as much as the fans are happy about it, you know, there's still a lot of issues to be resolved, and you know, I'm sure there's a bit of uncertainty around that club still at this moment in time.
We're in League Two now with Barnet. They've appointed Mark McGee as their new manager, Danny. Over 950 career games as a manager. Replaces Ross Eames, a young manager, unfortunately, that's stepped back into the youth side of it. A good appointment for Barnet?
I think he's managed at various levels within England, and he's got a wealth of experience. He knows what's needed. Barnet aren't in a great position at all. So what they'll be hoping is, you know, they've got a player, they've got Hurst. You know, he scored a few goals this season, so they do know where the back of the net is. But it's like the old adage, so to speak. It's relegation-wise. I always believe when you're at the bottom of the league, that's down to your defence. Get that defence solid, and then you can build on that. You know, I look at your own team. Defensively, so strong at times. You only have to score 1 goal, and you're winning a game. Defending is the easiest thing to do. So as a new manager going in there, obviously McGee, he'll know that. Build from the back, get that strong, and then you can kick on from there.
Paul, Ross Eames staying on at the club in a different capacity. Been burnt as a manager, and now he's nestled back into the youth side of it. A chance for him to rebuild and get back to perhaps the top job.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, it wasn't so long ago he was getting a lot of praise for the work that he's done there. And again, I question what is Barnet's remit. What are they expecting? Are they genuinely expecting to get promoted? I'm not too sure what the budget is there. They've been missing John Akinde for large parts, who's a real handful, and for me shouldn't even be in. He was in a conference not so long ago. Now in League Two, should be playing higher than that for me. But we've gone from one extreme to the other. Youngest manager, was it? And now vast experience. I am a little surprised that they've gone for Mark McGee. Nothing against Mark, but maybe someone that's been around the League Two, League One, I thought might have been the case.
Superb, fellas. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right, let's have a look what's coming up in the Sky Bet Championship live on Sky this weekend and into next week. It's a Lancashire derby, Preston versus Bolton on Friday, 7 p.m, Sky Sports Football. On Saturday, Fulham take on Derby, 17th versus 7th, 5:15 p.m, Sky Sports Football. On Sunday, it's the return of Gary Monk to Ellen Road, Leeds versus Middlesbrough, 1 p.m, Sky Sports Football. And on Wednesday, we're in Suffolk, Ipswich take on Sheffield Wednesday, 7:30 p.m, Sky Sports Football. Next Thursday, more EFL Matters, 7 p.m, Sky Sports Football once again. And available now is the EFL Matters podcast, skysports.com/podcasts. Thank you for joining us. Join us next week for more EFL Matters. Goodbye.
Sky Sports Football. Feel it all.